And welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our panel of media and political experts. Gray Sasser, Executive Director of the State Democratic Party. John Rodgers, Capitol Hill reporter for the Nashville City Paper, and News 2's contributing political analyst Steve Gill. Kind of a three-stage controversy over the Barack Obama thing this week. Got the photograph of him from 2006 in Africa in African attire. We had the use of his middle name, Barack Hussein Obama. And then we had the Tennessee GOP website posting claiming he was anti-Semite. Let's begin, I guess, with the use of his middle name. It is his middle name, but is there an inference, obviously, in using this? Is it being done detrimentally?
Well, I think it's clearly being done to tie the connections that he does have to Islam. Now, he has said he's not a Muslim, but his father was, his stepfather was. I think it's more important that his connections to anti-Semite groups, the endorsement this week of Louis Farrakhan, the head of the Nation of Islam, who has been among the most anti-Semitic, racist leaders in this country, and then you've got his own church affiliation, where a very racist pastor, anti-Semite pastor, is a continued affiliation that Barack Obama has. I think that the Hussein name has been a bit of silliness. It's gotten a lot more media attention than it would have gotten if people had ignored it. But I think there's a bigger story here of what are his connections, tenuous in some cases and direct in others, to terrorist and terrorist-sponsoring organizations.
And during the debate, he did separate himself somewhat from the Farrakhan endorsement.
But it took several days, and it took several attempts in that debate to say, I'm renouncing the Farrakhan endorsement. That should have been said the first day it came out.
From your perspective.
I mean, if you look at that press release, Bob, Chairwoman Robin Smith of the Republican Party said she had a duty to inform the Republican base. At the end of the day, that press release was simply that, a base attack. It was an attack based on internet innuendo and, frankly, falsehoods. It claimed that Senator Obama was wearing Muslim attire when in fact he wasn't. It was Somali attire. It was an attack that was so bad that everyone on the Republican Party, from Lamar Alexander to John McCain to the Republican National Committee, has repudiated it. And if that's the kind of campaign tactics we expect the Republicans to run here in the state of Tennessee, I feel really confident about the Democratic chances come November.
What kind of reaction did you get? I got a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, both sides of the issue. It really caused a lot of conversation.
The main reaction I got was negative to the press release. And I think just people, like you asked if it was detrimental or not, well, it certainly wasn't used in a positive light. I mean, they were trying to, and there's been an attempt to say, well, we've used presidents' middle names back to Dwight David Eisenhower. Well, from my perspective, Senator Barack Obama is just that, a senator. He is not a president at this point. And if he is president, then yes, his middle name will be used, and we'll have to get used to it to a certain extent.
Well, I'm repeatedly using John Sidney McCain to make sure that we're doing equal time. I think that the press release, I think where it went over the top was not necessarily some of the allegations against Barack Obama that are legitimate concerns. Is he going to have a tendency to be anti-Israel because of the support that he's shown for Palestinian organizations and others? The photo is just goofy. That first apparently came to light because apparently the Clinton folks found the photo and started circulating it. Why the Republican Party in Tennessee thought it was a good idea to put it as part of the release, you know, you put on a cowboy hat, that doesn't make you a cowboy. You can put on attire in a local country, and it doesn't make you, somebody from that country. Basically, all politicians ought to follow the avoid the silly hat and avoid the local garb rule, because it always comes back to bite you regardless of what party you're in.
Not everyone in your party, the Republican Party, agrees with everything that was said in there. Does it put the Tennessee GOP party in bad light in that the sitting ranking senator called to have it removed? The national GOP is criticizing what was issued on the website. Does that give the whole party a bad light?
I think the bad handling of it came from the party putting up the photo and the piece in the first place. It's just not the kind of stuff that in an issue-oriented campaign you want a party to do. There's plenty of internet sites that can do that. I think the problem for Lamar Alexander and the other Republican officials, the RNC and others, is make that phone call. I would hope if the DNC has a problem with something that Gray's doing, they'd pick up the phone and call him, not go out and have a press conference. You don't handle things in that way. So I think you can look at a lot of ways this has been mishandled.
It made national news. It was all over MSNBC. It was in the papers.
And, you know, this press release was put up on Monday.
Right.
And it didn't come down, or no one started griping about this until Wednesday. So unless they don't follow the Tennessee GOP's website very closely, it was there for 2 days before Lamar Alexander or Bob Corker or anybody picked up the phone.
I think, unfortunately, not only does it show a division within the Republican Party, you have Senator Lamar Alexander saying one thing and the Tennessee GOP saying something else. This release was the only release of its kind across the country. Everybody was focused on this Cunningham story, and all of a sudden, in the stories when you're talking about racism, anti-Semitism, anti-Muslimism, the worst features of American politics, you're seeing Tennessee, 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 Tennessee every time. And it was frankly offensive to me to have my state being thrown into that debate.
Steve made a good point, though. Louis Farrakhan has come out in support of Barack Obama. Has he done enough, in your view, to separate himself from him?
He denounced him. He rejected him. He used 3 or 4 different words during that debate. And I think at the end of the day, once you've repudiated something, how many times do you have to repudiate it? Just like this press release. McCain repudiated it. I take him at his word. Obama, during the debate, rejected Farrakhan. I take Senator Obama at his word.
Question going here forward is how much of John McCain's time is he going to have to spend doing this? He's trying to get into the White House. Is he going to every week going to have to be calling in one of his own party's members and saying, "Shut your mouth"? You know, that's something that we'll have to watch going forward.
Well, I just hope that the Democrats, and maybe Gray can lead the way here, that there won't be any disparaging comments made by any Democratic candidates against John McCain or any Republican candidates this year. If that's going to be the rule that John McCain is setting forth, saying, I don't want anybody saying anything disparaging against any of the other opponents, I just hope the other side will play by the same set of rules.
There's a big difference in my mind between the sharp elbows that go on in politics and cutting clear divisions between people's opinions on issues and moving towards an appeal that is the most base appeal in American politics, an appeal based on race or religion or anything like that. The Republicans did a pretty good job of it when Mitt Romney was on the ticket, who is a Mormon. You didn't see that move to criticize Mitt Romney based on his religion any more than I think you should see a move that would to criticize Senator Obama based upon his race.
We've seen anti-Semitic flyers being distributed against Steve Cohen by his Democrat Party opponent in Memphis. Are we seeing the kinds of denunciations of that kind of activity?
I think, I'll be happy to say it, I don't think anti-Semitism has any role in Democratic politics, Republican politics, or American politics.
Let's talk a little bit about the Democratic side. It seems in polls, if you believe the latest polls, Barack Obama is separating himself in Texas. He now leads in that state. Ohio very close, but Hillary Clinton still leading there. Everyone's saying she has to win them both. If she splits, if she doesn't win them both, is that the end of her campaign?
I think if she splits, she's done. I think if she loses both of them, she's done. And I think even if she wins narrowly both of them, it's still an uphill climb.
I was glad to see pitchers and catchers report last week so we could talk about something in politics. But in all seriousness, I think she's got to do very well in both of these. I think if there's a split, she can make an argument for continuing, although the argument gets a little bit tougher after her husband said in Texas that she needs to win the state of Texas.
I think there are I don't know this for a fact, but I think she's imagining her exit strategy at this point.
But I heard Governor Rendell of Pennsylvania talk about the Pennsylvania strategy, which is still a month and a half away, and she typically does well in big states. That is still down the road. Many delegates to go for, but it'd be a long time to kind of stretch it out between now and then if she doesn't do well in Texas and Ohio next week.
I think the problem for the Democrats is if she wins Ohio and Texas and does continue to stretch this out, it just continues the bitterness and the divisiveness. Again, this Muslim garb, Kenyan garb photo came supposedly from the Clinton campaign, and the divisiveness between the Clinton camp and the Obama camp, if it continues longer, you have a racial gap that continues to create itself that's harder to heal over at a convention.
But what we're talking about here is asking the Clintons to do something that they've never done before, and that's give up. You know, so
Steve Gill, John Rodgers, Gray Sasser, appreciate your input. Stay with us as we continues in a moment.